joining us. So last time we talked, it was earlier in the year. There was absolutely nothing going on. But now the Athletic Commission has opened the doors. There's Total Fight Challenge in August and in November. So what exactly do you have going on today?
Yeah, so everybody's excited because we got the green light. Yeah, so today's our first fight camp with some of the committed fighters, and then hopefully some potential fighters that eventually want to get in there. But we're gonna go ahead and open up today, start today, and we're gonna try to do this maybe every Sunday and just get them ready, because before you know it, it's August. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's when the butterflies start kicking in, and it's like, yeah, we've committed to this, so let's follow through on it. So
it's basically August 7th is when the next fight is. Is that enough time to prep your guys? You think that is? I think it's a short amount of time, 2 months.
Yeah, you know, I think so. These guys they're very consistent. You know, they're very dedicated to coming in, and I know they're training. And as long as they have the maintenance going on, you know, we can't ramp it up too early. I don't want them to burn out. You know, so let's keep it going, and then as it gets closer, then we start amping it up a little bit more, and then we start getting a little bit tighter with our drills and a little bit more sparring. As long as we don't get injured, you know, we won't have any injuries to delay any of this. That's really the main thing. So it's just more training smart, you know, and being ready to know that, hey, where's your gas with this? Don't start gassing out, because a lot of these guys will gas out here. You know,
right. I was actually going to ask you, what's the threshold when it comes to overtraining physically and mentally? I was just about to ask you that.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good question, because I think around maybe 2 weeks before, you should already be peaked out around that time, you know. So right there, now we start doing more pad work. You know, I don't want to take sparring too close to fight night, because I said all you need is one injury. You know, you can catch something, an elbow, you're gonna smack your foot on an elbow or something, and it's like, now we got to worry about recovery. So it's like, well, you know, that's one thing you don't need in your head. You got to be 100% focused on the fight.
I mean, you hear your coaches say, train smart and not hard.
Yes, correct.
So, so with August to November, if there are no injuries, would you expect those guys to be fighting in November too?
Yeah, if they want to do it, you know, yeah, we follow through with that as well. You know, they want to commit to that, and I think that's a good span between those two.
That is actually an extra month.
Yeah. So I think that's good for them. And you know, I don't know what some of these guys want to do. Like, you're looking to turn pro, you know. So hopefully this is a stepping stone for that. Because a lot of these fighters that ended up in the UFC start out in TFC. Right. You know, so that's a great, you know, a great resume to put on their background. So hopefully we can all be part of that. So
with all the guys that are under your fight camp on whenever you hold your fight camps, are you going to be cornering all of your guys?
Yeah.
So you're going to be cornering all the guys that you work with.
Yeah, I wrap them up, and there's some guys who they train with other guys, and I'll just kind of be like the assistant corner guy. I'll be the bucket guy, you know. Yeah. But I'll let this guy, he'll be like the head corner guy, and let him work whoever his fighter is. So, you know, I respect that, absolutely. And, you know, I'm just there to back them up and help them out. But I usually wrap up the guys, warm them up in the dressing room, and then we head out.
All righty. So as a coach, when you're cornering guys, I mean, unfortunately during this time, during the pandemic, has there been any discrepancies about, you know, wearing a mask or making sure that you guys have everything specific before your fight night? Like, what's expected of you and your fighters before you make it to the cage? Yeah,
for this time for sure, it's mandatory that we get tested.
Okay.
So as far as being vaccinated, I don't think they can push that, but we do have to be tested, and it's got to be within 2 or 3 days. We have to have the results in. So when we show up, we got to show proof that we've been tested and we're negative. And as far as wearing masks, I don't know. We might have to. We might have to wear the mask working corners, and that's all right with that. We've been wearing them all year, so, you know, we're used to it, right? Yeah.
So I know you're a huge boxing fan. You actually come from a boxing background. Mm-hmm. Did you watch that Canelo Billy Joe Saunders?
Yeah, I did.
All of it?
Yeah, most of it. Yeah, the streamline was breaking up for me, but.
Oh yeah, it was. There's a lot of people watching this fight, tuning in, so I'm sure. But I'm a huge English boxing fan, huge Billy Joe Saunders fan. Mm-hmm. I actually did believe that Billy Joe Saunders was going to give him a run for his money for all 12 rounds. But I actually wanted to ask you what you thought of what you saw from both guys.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's funny because on the official scorecards, one guy gave him, I think, 4 or 5 rounds.
Billy Joe or Canelo? Okay.
Saunders. And
okay.
I'm like, I might have given him maybe two rounds. And I think it might have been the 4th and the 5th round. He started picking up the pressure. It seemed like it took him a while to figure out Canelo. But what's scary with Canelo is that he's just strong. He's a great boxer, and he's got powerful punches, and we saw the results from that, right? But, if I was in there with Canelo, I'd be scared to piss him off, because it seems like, when you get aggressive with him, he comes back twice as hard.
Yeah.
But he never I barely saw him back up in this fight. He kept...
He's moving forward.
Yeah, a lot of forward pressure on Saunders, and Saunders was trying to hold his own, and he was fighting him back, and I think that's what's happening with Canelo. It's like, oh, this guy's fighting me back, now I'm picking it up. So he was picking up the steam, got a little bit more aggressive, But Saunders being a southpaw, he kept bending forward, and Canelo's got that uppercut right there, that rear uppercut, so that's what was hurting him.
So let's think about, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So earlier in the rounds, it looked as if Billy Joe was getting him to miss because Canelo was really trying to get him with those hooks.
Yeah.
Earlier in the fight, as the rounds went on, Canelo was throwing these right hooks to the body, and just hurting him real bad.
Yes.
Just even if he was blocking him, you could tell that his arms felt the impact.
Yeah.
But Billy Joe kind of picked up on that and was kind of trying to get him to miss. He kind of made him pay for it with that uppercut.
Yeah.
That was nasty.
Exactly. And Saunders, I didn't see a lot of power in his punches. He was very evasive, very nice. He had a nice jab. He was catching Canelo a lot with the jab. But it seemed when Canelo would come back, for every one punch you're throwing Canelo, he's coming back with 2 or 3. So I think that's what was getting Saunders mentally, like psychologically. It's like, this guy, And that's the worst thing I think you can do is you start talking negative to yourself in a fight. Because now you got how many rounds left? And if you're picking up in a bad way, like, this guy's stronger than me, now he's stronger than you.
Right.
So you can't, you got to still kind of, I got to fight, I got to fight back and I got to fight harder. But, again, with Canelo, you already have that anticipation. Like, I know Canelo's going to win. And I love the fights where you already kind of assume, like, here's the winner. But when the opponent starts picking it up a little bit, that's what makes the fight better for me. Because I'm like, this guy's fighting back. So now you're like, it can go either way. But when I saw the unofficial scorecards, this guy is giving him 4 rounds, 5 rounds, and I'm thinking, now how are the official judges looking at this? So are they going to give this guy more rounds than what I think? But it doesn't matter what I think.
I believe you're talking about Carl Froch.
I don't know. I don't know who the.
If it was Carl Froch, he was also a former English boxer himself, so there might have been that bias.
Yes, correct.
But looking at the scorecards after the bout, Canelo was running away with the fight.
Yeah.
But I did see that Billy Joe was landing that left straight quite a bit through his guard, and that was annoying Canelo quite a bit.
Yeah.
To your point, Billy Joe's much more of a combination puncher. He's not a knockout artist. He does have knockouts on his record, but he was 30-0.
Undefeated, though.
I think about 14 of those wins were by knockout or TKO.
So now let me ask you this. So, because you were saying they have a high, we were just talking earlier, and you're saying that they're more in amateur ranks for a longer time.
Yeah.
See, and we were talking about that last time. So now, are you going in with an amateur style fight?
See, that's what we were talking about last time actually, because we were talking about how styles have changed from the Sugar Ray Leonard days.
Right.
How he came from that Olympic background and used that style his entire career until he got to guys like Terry Norris or Hector Camacho, or guys who could actually bully him, or even Thomas Hearns, who could actually use his power.
Right.
But it's interesting that you bring that up. Billy Joe Saunders, Tyson Fury, a lot of these English boxers, even AJ, Dillian White, those guys specifically don't have extensive amateur backgrounds, but that amateur background is there.
Yeah.
A lot of those European guys have a long, extensive amateur background, especially Russians. There's a 175-pound champion by the name of Artur Beterbiev. He's a little bit older, but he's undefeated. If you look at his record, it's about 14-0, 16-0, something like that. But they're all devastating knockouts.
Okay.
So over time, I feel this way in the heavier weight classes because you have that power.
Yeah.
Over time, you get to hone your techniques,
Right.
and hone your skills,
Yeah.
hone your timing, and actually hone your body mechanics because not everybody's built the same.
Correct.
So you actually get to understand your own body. That's just from my perspective, from what I've seen.
No, that's a good point. But they're also getting away from I'm winning fights with points. It's like, yeah, no, these guys are going for knockouts now.
Yeah.
So now you have to kind of like, okay, now I have to change my style here and now, or I got to start training differently, because that's amateur, you know.
Yeah.
And it's no longer the point system, you know. Now we're talking about full contact knockout sport,
Right.
You know. So, and I think, you know, if this guy's going into that fight like that against Canelo, it's like, yeah, that's not the guy you want to start learning from, because he's going to hurt you, and he did, obviously.
Yeah, So I actually wanted to talk to you about that injury specifically to the eye. You've had quite a few fights. Have you ever been injured in the eye like that? You've talked about being rocked before and seeing double, but have you ever been injured specifically in the eye? Have you ever had?
No, you know, like not like that. I can't say I get thumbed in the eye a lot, but I always get hit in the eyeball. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like somehow that little corner of the glove always finds its way in my eye. But that was an ugly fight, especially an ugly injury, especially when you saw the X-ray of that, like the way it was shattered like that.
It was caved in.
That was his left.
I do believe it was his left side.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that goes to show that him being a southpaw, he's bending that way, and Canelo was just timing it, so he just caved in that.
It was a right uppercut too, I believe.
Yeah.
That he caught him with.
And he kept catching him a lot with it, and then I mean the way they stopped the fight, he couldn't come out of the corner, so it was who knows when it was broken. You know what I mean? So how many fights was this guy, or how many rounds was this guy already fighting with a shattered orbital, you know? But,
and did the uppercut just make it worse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, think about it. It's just a little hollow bone, and he just hit in the right spot and just shattered it.
Yeah.
So
Mark Tibbs was his coach, and in his corner he asked him, "Are you okay?" And his response was, "I can't see." So at that point, I'm sure you being a coach, when you hear your fighter say, "I can't see,"
Right.
are you going to send him out there again?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You're going to be a one-eye fighter, right? Here, let me put a patch over your eye, because it's like, no, you can't. You're not going to see that hand
Cut
anymore.
Mick.
Yeah. Right.
No.
Exactly. No, you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a fight that was very similar to this. Joe Joyce versus Daniel Dubois.
Okay.
So in the English heavyweight circuit, they love their English heavyweights. Dillian White, Derek Chisora, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. There's a whole bunch of guys. Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce are guys coming up. They were undefeated. Joe Joyce we talked about that long amateur background. He had a very long amateur background. Boxed against, I believe he boxed against Alexander Usyk in the amateur circuit. I believe it was in the Olympics, or it was the below the Olympics for the tournament that allows you to get
Not
to
a
compete,
Junior Olympics?
something like that,
Yeah.
I believe. But they fought as amateurs. Usyk was a cruiserweight, and now he's a heavyweight, and his own career's blossoming. Joe Joyce he's 35 now, 36, finally became a professional. He's got a good double-digit undefeated record. So does Daniel Dubois. When it comes to the European circuit, as well as heavyweights, there's 3 belts that they love to contest for. So it's the Triple BFC, the Commonwealth title, and the European title. And that's basically your trifecta to your golden ticket to see if you're going to be an international star for them, or from Armenia, or from Albania, from Russia, from anywhere in Europe. The equivalent to this in the United States would be the NABF, the North American Boxing Federation belt, and in the Oceanic it'd be the Oceanic OCPBF, the Oceanic and Pacific Boxing Federation. Those are coveted titles locally to see who's going to be an international star.
So they can't fight now. So can they fight in the States for those titles?
No.
Okay.
No,
so that's
specifically for their region.
Okay.
I've actually asked that question myself. Like, if you were an American fighter training in the UK, could you contest for there? I believe Winky Wright was one of the. You remember Winky Wright?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
He had a phenomenal career in the UK, but he was an American boxer, an American trained. But he was going over in the UK and beating up all their guys.
But he
for
couldn't
a while.
get the titles.
But he could not fight for those titles.
Okay.
Because he was
That's interesting.
Yeah. So But Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois were fighting for these titles. They're both heavyweights, orthodox fighters.
Okay.
I would say that they have similar styles, just in the sense that Daniel Dubois is just a little bit bigger. So his musculature is a little bit bigger than Joe Joyce. But Joe Joyce, he's very technical, and he was just utilizing this jab against Daniel Dubois, and it was giving Daniel Dubois a bunch of problems.
Yeah.
Daniel Dubois was putting the pressure on Joe Joyce, but Joe Joyce was very light on his feet. The only time he would use power shots was to keep Joe Joyce, or Daniel Dubois, excuse me, away. But Joe Joyce is utilizing this crisp, clean jab.
Yeah.
At round 10, at about maybe 40 seconds in, it was maybe a jab or two. And then Daniel Dubois just took a knee.
Really?
He looked at the ref, and the ref was counting him out. And when they got to 10, he stopped the fight.
Really?
His eye was swelled shut. His left eye, I believe, was swelled shut, and it was all from
Just from the jab.
Just from a jab. I actually thought about you when I was watching this fight, because you love that jab. Specifically love your stiff jab. Joe Joyce was utilizing that all night. It was money for him all night.
Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson. You know what I mean? And that was my favorite, to this day, my favorite heavyweight fight ever.
I didn't mean to interrupt. This fight took place, was it 2020 of November of 2020?
Oh, okay.
So keep on going. Just recently, keep on going.
Same thing. Jab, 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 boom, 1-2s. You know, and it was just a boxing clinic that he gave Mike Tyson. And it was the jab that did it. And yeah, you know, you just keep hitting that eye over and over. How many rounds am I going to take a shot to that eye? It's going to swell up on you. You know, and now you just turn him into a one-eye fighter, and you're not going to see that right hand coming. So yeah, smart move.
So when you see guys kind of guys as in fighters, when you see fighters make that educated decision, when you see the corners make that decision for them, we just talked about Mark Tibbs and Billy Joe Saunders. Does it really egg you on when the internet calls these guys quitters? I mean, that's a severe injury.
Yeah.
That's a severe injury, especially from both standpoints. It has to do with your eye. So you need both eyes in order to compete professionally in any sport.
Yeah. Again, we're talking about people who are on their sofas with a bag of potato chips, right? You know, they'll never ever put on a pair of boxing gloves, and you know, it's like, so it's easy to say that. It's easy to criticize, and you know, well, step in the ring, just do a one round sparring match, and let's talk then. But you know what? You have rematches. This is where we can come back and do another round. You know what I mean? Right now, let's worry about your long-term health, especially your vision. You know, so we'll come back in a couple of months and we'll have a rematch. But right now, let's make sure you're 100% okay, because you need both eyes. You need them at 100%. Because I mean, why shorten your career? But long after your boxing career is over, you still got to see. You know, so and it's terrible. You're always going to have those keyboard, whatever they call them, raiders, and they can talk all the trash you want, but you can't back it up. You know, it's all talk.
I actually wanted to ask you, what would you say about other competitors, other fighters saying that same thing? Oh, well, they quit, and they're the ones competing as well. Yeah. One day they're gonna, if they are put in that situation.
Well, it's like the young kids say now, everybody has haters, right? You know, it's like, that's all he is. It's like, come on, guy, you respect the fighter. Even though you can be an opponent, you know, respect him. You have to respect his health. You should never have ill will towards another fighter. You know, regardless if this guy's gonna be my opponent, regardless we talk trash talk, whatever. In the end, I never want any ill will towards you or your family. But you know, hey, if you wanna talk trash like that to promote a fight. Ticket sales, okay, let's keep talking. Let's talk all the trash you want. Come fight now. I tell you what, after the fight is over, they're hugging each other. Hey man, respect. You know,
always
all the time,
see that,
right?
Very rarely do you see. Very seldom do you see any more animosity than there was before the fight.
Absolutely.
But usually they're excuse me, hugging it out, shaking their hands, and excuse you. But bless you. But yeah, it's you never want to see these guys take too much damage. Look at Muhammad Ali. and there was it wasn't Terry, Meldrick Taylor.
Meldrick Taylor.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Hearing him hold a conversation,
yeah,
is hearing him conduct an interview is very hard to hear.
It's terrible. I taught I think we talked about this last time. They did a thing on him, an interview, and they showed a brain scan, and there was parts of his brain. They said all this part here that's black, that means there's no activity in that brain. It's dead, and he was still doing fights. He was still doing local fights. So the argument was, why is this guy still fighting in local gyms for $200 a round or whatever it was at the time? Yeah, but it was terrible, and that was after the Chavez fight.
Oh no!
After that, he just
Oh yeah, a lot of guys talk about that.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys talk about when Meldrick Taylor fought Julio Cesar Chavez.
Yeah.
Thought he was going to give him the reach around. It did not happen.
And I'll be honest with you, he won that fight. Meldrick Taylor won that fight.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he won the fight, but what happened was that the whole controversial stop with, I forgot the ref's name, popular ref.
I've only seen highlights of that fight specifically.
Yeah,
so
last round, and it was the last round, and Chavez hurt him, so he's going to make count. And you can see there's a red light up on the top of the corner, and Richard Steele was the referee.
Okay.
So he's counting them out, and this light turned on, and I can't remember what the light was for. I think that sent like so many seconds left before the bell rung. And he could have finished the 8 count and let him continue fighting, but as soon as that light came on, you see him in slow motion look at the light, and he stops the fight.
Oh,
I
see what you're saying.
Yeah, and the who was his corner? Was it Duva? He rushed in there like trying to get at Steele.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, he
attacked the referee.
Yeah, he went after they had to hold him back. He goes,
No.
he won. You shouldn't have stopped the fight. But I thought he outboxed Chavez that whole fight.
Okay.
Just the speed. I mean, just fast. And I'm like, they stole it from him.
Okay.
Yeah, but after that, he was never the same. It was over.
Yeah, you hear about guys after they fight, after they have a certain fight or meet a certain somebody that when they have a certain fight on the night, they're never the same again.
Yeah.
So one of those guys last night was Tony Ferguson. It's 3 losses in a row for Tony Ferguson. I mean, that's at least the first one was a devastating. It was at least the first one was devastating. These next 2, he's just getting controlled and outpointed. And I know you're not a grappler at all by any means,
right.
But that first fight that he had with Justin Gaethje was virtually a kickboxing bout. So, what do you see? It's somebody who's 37 years old, cutting down to 155 pounds, who's already suffered 3 defeats in a row. You were knocking on the door of a title shot not that less than a year ago. If you were in his corner, what would you tell him? What conversation would you have with him?
Well, was he cutting down from what weight?
I'm not sure. It's a great question.
That's always huge. When guys are in a certain division, and like I can't do anything in this division anymore, I needed to go up or go down. I'd rather they go up.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I'd rather they go up than go down because you know what? We've talked about that where you guys who are just that's their natural walking weight, so they're just strong naturally. Now, if you're trying to get cut down to that weight, your body's going to question you like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, you're not used to this. This is I can't help you with this anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so I would that's one of those things you got to do like a real deep self-examination. What do you really want to do? I'm going to support you. I'm going to help you, but I'm going to be honest with you. There's going to be some tough love here. Like, if this is something you shouldn't do, I'm going to let you know, man, this is probably not safe anymore. You know, right now, you're 30-something years old. Let's be honest with each other. Your career is probably almost done, and I'm not trying to discourage you, but we got to look at long-term. You know, so let's get a couple more fights, just get more money, put that money away, invest it wisely. But that's really about it. But now we're pursuing the title shot. You got guys that are coming up that are just stronger and faster, you know, and hungrier, right? And psychologically, the fire's gone, you know. So now you're training harder for something that might not happen, you know.
Tony Ferguson trains like a madman.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, you look at all of his videos that he posts, and he trains 24/7.
Yeah.
But we're talking about discrepancies during a fight. With respect to the Justin Gaethje fight, but it was 3 weeks. The UFC had pushed that fight back 3 weeks So he had decided to cut weight when the fight was supposed to happen. He cut his weight, cut to 155 pounds, and then posted it. And then 3 weeks later, just had to make weight again for the actual fight. I think that's what did him in.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Because I think he put too much strain on his body too soon. Mm-hmm. And I think that personally what happened. But not to take anything away from Justin Gaethje or Charles Oliveira.
Right.
Or Beneil Dariush or even Michael Johnson. Mm-hmm. But man, to cut weight within 3 weeks.
Yeah. You got to do it smart and you got to do it safely. And there's some fighters that have it down to a science. Yeah. But if you're just trying to, you know what, I'm going to do the salt bath thing, I'm going to just dehydrate myself, then it's like now you got your cornerman helping you to the weigh-in to get on the scale.
That's another good point.
Yeah.
We didn't know his weight cut method.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and then you have these two fighters, that female fighter and this other guy that pass out on the weight, on the scale. It's like, come on, that's terrible. You never get to that point.
Ray Borg. I believe that happened to Ray Borg recently on the scales.
Yeah, it happened about a week ago.
Yeah. He was trying to help himself up, and the officiaries were trying to hold him up, and he was falling. Yeah,
why? There's no point for that. You know, I think now they even have it where they weigh you twice. They weigh you the night before, and they weigh you hours before the fight. I think I've heard that, and I like that idea because you're so dehydrated, you could be 10 pounds dehydrated and come fight now, you're 15 pounds over what you weighed in. Mm-hmm. So like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, you should probably be within the same range the night before and come fight night. You should be whatever, you know, whatever the parameters are. It's like, you know, even if it's five pounds, but you're not damaging your system, your kidneys, whatever is going to get damaged during this weight cut. It's ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
I always thought that the weighing in twice the night before and then the day of the fight, the weigh-in and then the day after the fight was a boxing thing.
Oh, the day after the fight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the day before, but the day after the fight.
Okay. Yeah. See, I thought it might have been the day of the fight. But
okay. There are some guys that would, I'm sure they would do it to kind of just prove themselves or to kind of show the fans. Mayweather had weighed in less than he'd weighed in on the day of the weigh-ins when he fought either Canelo or Pacquiao. I don't remember which one. It was a big fight, and when they were interviewing him, they had asked him, you had weighed in tonight less than you did last night, and he was like, yep,
right.
I still won.
Right.
I still won.
Yeah.
So I'd only seen that one other time. The other time I'd seen that was I went back and watched a fight that caught my eye. James Toney versus Roy Jones Jr.
Oh wow!
Because when I'm an MMA fan, so when I'd watch James Toney fight Randy Couture, and I was just, what are you doing? Don't do that.
Right.
And then it happened, unfortunately. I'd gone back and, you know, because I'd watched James Toney fight Evander Holyfield, because I'd grown up watching Evander Holyfield in my household. I'd researched, their records, saw that he fought Roy Jones Jr. They were both undefeated at the time. It was in the mid-'90s, early 90s. Man. So the thing with James Toney, if you don't know this, he suffers from a faulty pituitary gland in his brain.
Oh, okay.
So the reason he gained so much weight later in his career is because of that.
Really?
So that apparently, shout out to Office Honcho, apparently that inhibits your ability to produce testosterone. If you're a woman, produce estrogen, build muscle, lose fat, concentrate, stuff like that. So I guess he'd suffer with that his entire career. So they fought at super middleweight, which is 168, which is what Canelo is the man at right now. James Toney had weighed in somewhere north of 187 pounds, like when he had weighed in 168 pounds the night of the fight. And he would later go on to fight cruiserweight, and he knocked out Evander Holyfield later in his career. So it's just like putting that much strain on your body.
Yeah.
I mean, again, he knocked out Holyfield, so he had always had that power.
Right.
But and he lost that fight that night.
Yeah.
But that was when Roy Jones was Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah, and
That's the only other time I'd seen people weighing in twice.
And probably back then, the weight cuts, what are we looking at? That, you know, you run around the block with a plastic bag on it, that's it, you know, and it was, I don't think they had it down to a science yet, if they even have it down to a science yet, but still, you know, you're putting that on a fighter, you know, it's like, I would never do that. We got way too much to focus on where your weight, you should always just be close to it. Like, we'll worry about the weight, you know, that we know we got 3 pounds to lose maybe, and that's even run around the block a couple of times. But we're talking about 10, 15 pounds. That's ridiculous. I'm totally against that, and I never understood that, and I never will, because I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
You know, because if a guy tells me, goes, oh, you know, I'm going to be at this way, but I want to fight down this way, I'm like, why? Yeah. I don't understand why you want to fight down. Why? You know what I mean? You feel better at that weight. You feel you move better at that weight. Maybe when you were at that weight, maybe you could, but work with what you have at the time. You know, let's work with that. But yeah, no, it's like I said, it's too much on the body, and
there's some guys that can do it. Edson Barboza, he fought Shane Burgos last night. Did you watch that fight?
No, I didn't. I wanted to see that. I thought it was going to be on the prelims.
So it was on the main card. It was on the undercard. I believe it opened up the pay-per-view. That fight was a barn burner. So Edson Barboza, great kicks. We talked about cutting too much weight. He's a featherweight now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. So I believe it walked around at 170, 175, cut down to 155. So it's 15, 20 pounds. I guess on paper that's not too bad.
Yeah.
And then he had went down, you know, the 10 extra pounds. He lost his first fight against a guy named Dan Ige. That was a back and forth. His 3 fights at featherweight, they're all decisions, but he's still got that. He's still got the quick twitch muscle fibers.
Yeah.
He's still fast and he's still shredded. He's still a great kicker too.
He's got that Jose Aldo kick.
Yeah. He's got those nasty leg kicks.
Yeah.
He's been able to cut weight. I guess he couldn't hang with the guys at 155 who were heavier. To your point, those guys just hit really hard.
Yeah.
And he couldn't withstand their punishment, I guess. And if you look at his record, that's exactly what you can say.
Yeah.
He's suffered a lot of knockouts at the tail end of his lightweight career. So when you see him at featherweight, so when you see a guy who could actually make the weight at featherweight at an older age, he's older age. He's 35 years old. I'm saying older for a lightweight. Sorry guys. But at 145 pounds, 35 years old, to be able to move like that is pretty impressive.
Oh, absolutely.
And he fought Shane Burgos. He was landing his leg kicks, but he had thrown this overhand, and the overhand landed. It landed flush, and there was a delay for about 3 seconds. And then the eyes of Shane Burgos starting to move away, and then the legs gave out, and then he was backing up towards the cage. He just crumbled up against the cage.
Delayed adrenaline.
Yeah, that was the only time I'd ever seen that was with Cub Swanson fought Charles Oliveira when he was at featherweight. So he landed an overhand, and then Charles Oliveira just kind of stood there and then kind of sat down, and it was kind of over. It was kind of punched out. That was kind of the same thing last night.
Yeah.
With Edson Barboza and Shane Burgos. That was impressive.
That's crazy where something like that happens, because it's like, how's your body working? Like, why?
That's exactly what it looked like.
Know?
That is exactly what it looked like.
Yeah.
If you watch the way he reacted after the punch, you ask yourself, like, you could even see the guys outside the cage go facially just look. I guess it was very strange. Yeah.
But it was kind of there was a free UFC fight night where the girl took the kick to the face. Did you see that one? They were on the ground.
Michelle Watterson and Rodriguez?
It was under that card.
Okay.
And I forgot the girl's name, but she took a shot to the face. She was on her knees, an up kick. And the way her leg was...
Ronda Marcos.
That's what it was.
Ronda Marcos had thrown an up kick against... I forget what her opponent's name was.
And she was winning the fight, too. Yeah. She had nice hands coming back, and then I don't know what happened, but there was the same thing. The delay, it seemed like she went like this, and then she threw herself back. And Bisping was defending her and saying, no, we don't know. We're not in there. It's her. She took the shot. I go, yeah. From the outside looking in, it looked kind of weird the way she did it, but then she kind of... but again, I didn't take the shot.
Right.
So it's hard. It's easy to you know, I'm interpreting it this way because that's what I
Right.
saw. But again, she took the shot to the face, you know.
Yeah, that was-
And yeah, so again, it's one of those delayed shots, or delayed reaction on your brain. It's like, oh, you just got hit, dropped.
Yeah, that was pretty devastating.
Yeah.
When and it makes you wonder what was, again. It makes you wonder was did you take that much punishment in preparation before the fight that you couldn't, because it didn't look, again, it was a very strange sequence of events because the punch had landed, then there was the second the few seconds of a delay.
Yeah.
Then the reaction of, oh, I got hit. Oh, my body's not working. Oh, wait, I'm out. And then that's,
Is it taking that long for your brain to register? Like, you know, like, the data is coming through, and it's like now you act on it.
Burgos is a young guy too.
Yeah.
He's younger than Edson Barboza.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
but yeah, I guess that was I just played myself. No, Edson Barboza's 3 featherweight fights. 2 of them were decisions. One was a win, one was a loss. This last one was a very delayed knockout loss. But you watched the main event for UFC 262, right? It was Chandler and Oliveira.
Yeah, I saw some of the highlights on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Charles Oliveira had a long UFC tenure. I think he'd been in the UFC for 11 years. Started as in early 20s. Started, I think he was the youngest guy in the UFC at one point in time, historically, calendarly, I guess if that's a word. He was at lightweight and then went down to featherweight and then went back up to lightweight. He was one of those guys that went back and forth. Finally able to kind of iron out all the wrinkles in his game because he was a jiu-jitsu guy. He came into this fight, you know, complete against somebody who's short, stocky, 5'8", very powerful.
Yeah, aggressive.
Yeah, definitely. Someone who could put the pressure on you.
Right.
Michael Chandler is definitely of an athletic specimen. I'd actually heard from somewhere that he walks around, his heaviest was 190.
Really?
And he cuts down to 155. I guess when he's not, yeah. You could see it too.
Yeah.
He looks like a 200-pound, 5'8" man.
But he doesn't look heavy ever. He looks built. He's solid.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow, that's interesting.
He absolutely looks like a hard worker.
Yeah.
I mean, he works hard. He looks like a hard worker. But Charles Oliveira was in trouble in the first round.
First round, yeah.
He was in really big trouble. So talk about that for a little bit.
Well, it's funny because the hit he got hit with was the same one that Chandler knocked out Hooker with, that left hook.
Yeah, it was the
you know,
cross
it's
hook.
just like
Yep.
boom. But it's funny because I look at Chandler as an aggressive wrestler, ground and pounder. You know, he's got hands.
Heavy hands.
Yeah,
too.
I don't know but I don't know his ground. Is he a jiu-jitsu guy? Does he know how to work guys on the ground, or is he just I just want to get you down and pound the crap out of you? Versus you got Oliveira, who's a jiu-jitsu guy. Now I always heard that wrestlers give jiu-jitsu guys a hard time. I don't know. That's not my forte. I just kind of observe and what I hear. But now I'm looking at Chandler's an aggressive, he's going to take you down, but do you want to get into this man's world? That's his thing. Like, I welcome you to try to take me down. Because once I have you, I don't have to chase you. I got you where I want. All right, thanks for coming in. I don't have to. Now I just turn to do my anaconda stuff. I'm going to wrap you up. But it's interesting that he hurt him with hands. And I know Oliveira's, he's all around. Grappler, striker, kicker, everything. So going into that, I knew Oliveira was going to take the fight.
Okay.
You know, and I figured, Chandler's going to give him a hard fight. And I was surprised when he dropped him. But it was funny the way Oliveira went.
In the second round.
In the second, was it the second round? Yeah. He was doing something like he was dodging his punches, but he was almost like doing this. And I'm thinking, well, he knows he can't get kicked. He can probably get punched, but he recovered. And but you said it was a left hook he threw. I thought it was the right cross that he heard Chandler with.
So in the first round, Oliveira was using these leg kicks that were kind of getting the legs out from underneath Chandler, but he would get back up to his feet. I don't remember what the sequence was. They ended up on the ground. Charles Oliveira ended up getting his back, Chandler's back. But when Chandler, again, is a physical specimen, he had the baseball bat grip and then just put that arm on the other side of his head and just exploded into the guard of Oliveira.
Wow.
And then that's when Oliveira got up. He landed that sequence of left hooks, and then that's when he hurt him really bad. And Oliveira was doing what he could to keep him away with his legs off of his back.
Yeah.
But as soon as that round was over, I mean, it looked as if Oliveira was donezo.
Wow.
Then it was in the second round they opened up. I believe Michael Chandler threw a couple of punches. It got Oliveira to react, but when he reacted, he countered. So he countered with that left hook, and it caught Chandler right then and there. And then that was basically the beginning of the end for Chandler.
Yeah, and he got on him right away. He had to stay on him right away and just put that damage on him. Because the kid, he's like a pit bull. You hurt this guy, now you got a cornered wild animal. Yeah. He's gonna fight even harder. But like I said, I knew Oliveira was gonna take the fight. I thought it was gonna go more rounds than that.
Okay.
But now, props to both of them for just doing what they do.
Right.
And, yeah, absolutely.
I actually had no idea what was going to happen.
Really?
That fight. Yeah, I was at the edge of my seat going, because they were both relatively even. When at that elite level, you have to be well-rounded. But there are very specific guys that have their specialties, that have their special abilities that fall on their background. To your point, Charles Oliveira being a jiu-jitsu guy, he was training with the shoot box guys in Brazil, so they have nasty Muay Thai over there. On the other side of that, in the corner of Michael Chandler, you have a guy by the name of Henry Hooft. Henry Hooft used to be a K1 kickboxer. He kickboxed guys against guys like Peter Ertz.
Yeah.
And he has his own Stanford MMA somewhere, I believe it's in Florida. And so basically, both guys that came from grappling backgrounds, but you could say that they turned into knockout artists.
Yeah.
Because a lot of their fights a lot of their wins are compiled by knockout or finish. So when it was basically essentially a calculated kickboxing bout.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get you can always get a submission.
Yeah.
But you got to work harder for that versus hitting somebody. That's just what I think. I think you're gonna hurt somebody with a kick or a punch faster than you're gonna get them. You gotta do the takedown, and it's a lot of work. This is why I don't like jiu-jitsu. It is too much work. You know what I mean? It's like, you gotta figure the size, the chest cam. I'm not good at this, and then I don't know. I'm gonna open
all
up
the
myself.
dislikes are gonna be from jiu-jitsu guys now.
right. So I'm just, I tried it, but I always have something out and they catch it. I would be scared to fight a guy who's good at jiu-jitsu because they're gonna catch something. Versus a guy stand up, I can handle myself. I think pretty good, and I know what to do there. So I think again with you learn to punch and kick, and then you start learning to put your combos together. You're gonna hurt somebody faster.
Right.
Even if I clip them on the chin or in the temple, now the recovery it's not there. So I gotta hurry up and boom, 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 boom.
Right.
And that's the thing with these guys. Like he hurt Chandler, and it's like he's hurt from my punch. So let me get on this guy right off the bat. Let me get on him before he recovers.
To your point, I did think that he was going to take his back and choke him out after he hurt him, but he just kept wailing on him with ground and pound.
Yeah.
So
it's quicker and it's faster, and let me do this now. Yeah. Because that was like how many? There's probably early in the round, so it's like I got 3 minutes left.
It was like it was well over. He had well over 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes, because the fight ended at 19 seconds of the second round.
Second round, wow.
So, and even with, I mean, it had to have been a hard shot too, because Chandler was fresh.
Yeah, right.
Coming into the second fight,
Good point.
coming into the second round.
Yeah.
So, having a guy hurt and then coming out with that confidence. I mean, do you think Chandler got overconfident and came out with his hands up, or hands down, chin up? I don't think that. I think he just got caught with the shot. But usually you'll hear that sometimes when the fighters will come out after the fact and go, I kind of underestimated him a little bit, or I thought I had him hurt, and then I got caught with a shot. You hear that a lot in the fight game. So
I think you get overconfident as the fight goes on. What I mean?
So it's too early to be
it's too early to be overconfident, because you're still trying to figure this guy out. You're still trying to come up with your own game plan.
That's a good point.
So I think like maybe, how many rounds was this thing? 5?
Yeah, 5.
Maybe by the third round, I kind of figured them out, so now I'm getting a little bit more confident, and now I can kind of produce a little bit more. But he just got caught, And those hooks are the ones, I get hit with hooks before I get hit with a cross. you know.
Yeah.
It looks like it's coming straight, and then it just sneaks around.
operating.
You got some guys that just have a really nice, it just comes around. And I'm always going to try to catch it here, and it's like, boom.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to figure something out with that one.
Yeah, Roy Jones Jr. was an expert at that.
Yes.
His lead hand was
Yeah.
almost like a lead hooking jab.
Exactly.
It was very, very strange.
I agree with you.
But it was very high level.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because Roy Jones Jr. was. But you have outliers like that could do these very special things. We're talking about guys that are at certain ages that shouldn't be cutting weight at that point in time. Yeah. But aside from that, if you look at their fighting abilities and how long they're able to even withstand punishment, guys like Yoel Romero, Randy Couture, even the Klitschko brothers, there's that, we talked about that style of fighting, not necessarily the style of fighting safe, but kind of the style of conservativeness, you know what I mean?
Right.
To kind of conserve your body.
Yeah, you know you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to know yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
Bernard Hopkins is another guy that even Floyd Mayweather.
Right. Yeah. And you know, you've been doing it for so long, that's where the experience kicks in. It's like, I know how much I can handle, I know how much I can put out. And it's like, kind of, we talked about what's his name? I keep forgetting his name. But anyway,
a lot of names, so
yeah,
don't feel bad.
Right. But he even says, I don't train 6 days a week. He says, I train.
Alistair Overeem.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
That's the guy. Yeah, and he said it, and I love what he said.
Because you said that.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
Exactly. And I love the way he said it because it made so much sense to me. He says, I'm at the age where I can't be doing this for training 6 days a week and 4 hours a day. He says, I train 4 days a week, and I only do this much. That's good for you. I'm going to stick to that model too. Right. You know what I mean? Because, yeah, it's like, why? Why punish your body at that age, you know? And he knows his time is coming up, you know? So I don't need to punish myself anymore. I'm going to just go into my maintenance mode and take care of my body while I can, you know?
Yeah.
Limited damage, limited injuries.
With that being said, this is the last thing we'll kind of talk about. Charles Oliveira, again, when he came into the UFC, one of the youngest guys, being in the UFC for about 10 years, a little bit over 10 years, finally being the champion, finally becoming the champion, how long do you anticipate he'll remain champion for? Because we talked about sustaining damage, the experience, the age. He's relatively young, you know, cutting the weight. Just all these things that we talked about just kind of coming together finally, but coming together in the right way.
Yes.
Specifically for Charles Oliveira.
Yeah.
How long do you anticipate he'll be champion for?
Well, who's up in next in line? It's like, what do you got,
Poirier, Conor McGregor, there's Justin Gaethje, he's still out there.
Yeah.
Beneil Dariush, he just beat Tony Ferguson.
See, but these are guys that are probably have been in as long as he has. And I always say, you know who's going to beat him? A guy who's just getting into the amateurs. You know what I mean? Who's an amateur is ready to turn pro. So you got a guy who we probably don't know yet who's going to come up and take him out. That's just how I always look at it. There's always the younger and stronger and the guys who are gaining more knowledge and learning more. But this guy, if he's going to fight these guys like Poirier and McGregor, I think he's going to beat those guys. I give him maybe, I could see him being champ for another year or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're already asking for a rematch between those guys because that fight was so close.
Yeah.
But it was a war. So I want to thank you guys, but I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of Total Fight Mike.
Thanks again for having me.
Yeah. I wouldn't stay longer for the fight camp, but I have to wait for my second shot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem at all.
But good luck with your fighters.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode of Total Fight Mike. I will see you guys in the sequel. Bye, everybody.